Hi there, my name is Ruth. I am a knitting, crochet, and Tunisian crochet pattern designer and technical editor. Right now, I'm just doing my monthly check-in to show you what I've been working on and talk a little bit about life. This is just a vlog. Hello, I'm not calling it a podcast or anything. It's just a vlog. If you want to find information about the patterns that I talk about, as usual for vlogs, you will find information in the detail box below. Yes. So basically for this year, I would like to be less Instagram and TikTok centric. And I get really tired of having to edit down my projects into 30 to 90 second blurbs. I feel like it's really hard to actually get details about what people are working on or what did or did not work for them in a 30 to 90 second short form video like is being really popularized right now. So that's not to say that I'm going to talk forever, but I would like to actually be able to give you guys details about what I'm working on. So for starters, let's start with something that I recently finished. And these are not going to be 100% pretty because I finished them. They're mittens, and then I immediately wore them. So there's hay, there's grass, but these are a pair of Tunisian crochet mittens with a standard crochet border. It's nothing super duper fancy, but one of the reasons I made these is because I like handmade mittens, but I also need them to be functional and I want them to be windproof, which these are. Tunisian crochet is naturally a very dense, it creates a very dense fiber, but these I did at an even tighter gauge than I normally would. So these are Aran weight yarn, which is like a heavy worsted weight yarn, with a USH hook around, which is 5 millimeters, and then a 4 millimeter hook for standard crochet for the cuff. So they are very fitted, but there's still a little bit of stretch to them. And I took these out for a test run with my kids and we had a snowball fight, and they're fine and my hands stayed dry in crocheted mittens and they kept their shape, which I'm thrilled about because I have knit mittens over the year, and aside from stranded color work, I have been hard pressed to find mittens that keep their shape once they get wet. Something else nice about these is I believe they're not superwash. I can't be 100% sure because I was pretty positive they were not superwash wool. And then I went on to Ravelry and Ravelry said they are superwash. I don't know. If they're not superwash, I'd be very happy about that because that means that as I wear them in the snow and as they get wet, the fibers will actually felt together a little bit, which will give me an even more dense, windproof, waterproof type fabric. So these are a pattern that I have had tech edited by someone else, and they are currently in testing. I've been calling it preview making because I feel like that's a more accurate description of what's actually happening. Like the pattern is ready for publication and I'm just having people preview the pattern. But when I say preview making, people get confused. I think that the community has used the term test knitting or test crocheting for so long that when I say a different term, people are like, what's that? What's preview? I can't do quotation marks in mittens. What's preview making? I feel like the Emperor's New Groove when he tries to do the quotation marks with the hoofs. So basically they're in testing. And what pattern testing or preview making involves in this case is I take one of my patterns that has already gone to a technical editor. The technical editor confirms that I need my hands out of here so I can talk. The technical editor confirms that my math is right, that there's not grammar or instruction errors, that sizes should fit. So in general, this pattern should be functional for publication. The pattern testers actually work through and make the pattern. So sometimes a pattern can be technically sound, But when a person goes to actually make the project, they find, oh my goodness, that works technically, but it's a little bit strange when you make it. Or, hey, this could be clarified for a beginner maker this way, or this could be clarified for an advanced maker that way. So they just give feedback on what their experience is while making the pattern, so that the pattern designer can either know, hey, yes, I am correct, the tech editor is correct, this really is a good, solid pattern that's ready for publication, or maybe a couple of little tweaks need to be made before the pattern can be published. So these are called A Red Sun Rises because the yarn is Bumblebee Acres Sasquatch Aran, and the colorway is Helm's Deep. And I was watching The Lord of the Rings, and I was thinking about all of the stupid little one-liners that they wrote for Legolas in the movies. Like, if you read the books, in the Lord of the Rings books, Legolas is amazing, and he's kind of like subtly snarky, and I love him. And then you get into the movies, and these are named after one of his like stupid quotes. He goes, "A red sun rises. Blood has been spilled this night." And it's just like, dude, what do you... Speaking of dude, this is my dog. This is Frodo. Excuse me, sir. I'm sitting in his spot. My bay window is right here, and I'm sitting in Mr. Frodo's spot right here. Do you need to go lay down? Come here. Come over here. Come over here, buddy. Nugget. I'm sitting on the floor. So obviously I must be wanting to pet the dog. Okay, I'm back. Anyway, I was just thinking about all of the goofy one-liners that Legolas had, and so these are called A Red Sun Rises for all of that silliness. So they will be published sometime in February, once my testers are done with it. A couple of them are already done. And it's, you know, it's like the end of January right now. Today's the 27th, maybe, of January. So, February it is. Another pattern that I'm really, really excited about, and I have not shown anywhere, I'm going to show you guys. Partly because only like 100 to 150 people actually watch my YouTube vlogs. So I feel like I'm not really showing too much. I'm not showing too many people. Check this out. It's so cool. So this is a hat pattern that has also been tech edited, and I'm about to send into pattern testing. Look at the crown on that hat. Look how pretty that is. So this is my Speed Boost hat, which will probably be out the end of February. And look at this. It's just so comfy. And I like the texture of it so much. Look. It's just like, it's pretty wonderful, honestly. So this yarn is from Gritty Knits, and it was part of a discount Black Friday box. And when I opened it up, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so nice. It's a farm yarn. It's from Ross Farm, and it's a Cormo yarn, 100% Cormo. And it just feels so nice and squishy. And she goes, yeah, nobody was buying it, so I discontinued the base. And I'm like, Natasha, I would roll in this yarn. I would buy like sweaters and everything in this yarn. It's so stinking nice. She does not have any more. So because she does not have any more, I needed to get an available yarn to make the sample, purely so that I can recommend to you guys a yarn that I know works. Where is my bag? So I talked to Sam from Beachy Breeze Fibers, and she has a, what's it called? It's like an, I guess, untreated or non-superwash merino. So it's not quite the same texturally because like the ply is different, but I wanted to try this with a hat band on it, a brim, to see if I like how it fits. And I'm not quite there yet, but I think it'll be okay. I think it'll be good. At first, when I started out, I was using the same size needles for this as I did for that, and it was so bad because this stitch really draws the fabric in. So you need much more stitches than you would think you do for this hat. But this is also probably going to be published in like end of February, just because I have to finish making the new sample and I have to get pattern testers to test it. But aside from that, I'm really excited about this one. It's not necessarily a fast knit because of the way that this patterning is made, but it's a project that feels really good in your hands while you're knitting it. Like if you get a good worsted weight yarn that you really like and you really like the feel of, it feels amazing in the hands while you're working on the stitches. I can't really explain it otherwise. It's a very process oriented project for me. So yes, this is Beachy Breeze Fibers. This is her colorway called 39.5 foot pole, like the Grinch. And it's kind of funny because I enjoy Sam. Full disclosure, she and I talk on a regular basis. She sent me this skein as yarn support, as in I did not pay for this. I paid for a second color from her, so I paid for one skein. She sent the other for yarn support. And Sam dyes a lot of neutrals. She dyes, like this for me is a neutral. I know some people would be like, oh, that's color. That's not a off-white or a gray or whatever. This is my color scheme. Okay, I wear like neutral colors and then I put really bright colors. Like I look good next to brights. This is elegant. This is me. So she sent me this color and also this really pretty like navy kind of purple looking, which I think will be really cool because like my husband would like that. He probably wouldn't wear a pastel like sage color, but he would definitely wear the navy one. So I like that I'm going to be able to show a super bright, like a medium, and then also a darker color. So people who don't like neon chartreuse can see a hat in a color that they might like. So that's that. Let's see what else I have to show you. I have something else to show you guys, and I'm not 100% sure what to do with it. So I have been seeing a lot of linen stitch, and in particular, I was tech editing a shawl for a client who is doing this really big shawl in 3-color linen stitch. And in order to check that her instructions were correct for the 3 colors changing, I swatched the 3-color linen stitch, and then again it just felt like really good in my hands, so I kept going. And then I was like, let's make it a cowl, and I added a top thing, and then I was like, oh, cowls need some lace, so I added that. So like my swatch for tech editing has turned into this. And I'm like, well, that's interesting, because I sure do like this. And this is just like the lace is a swatch, and I don't know. I like it and it's comfy. And so I don't know what I'm going to do with this. I am likely going to, I'm going to talk to her, because I'm not going to publish something that was inspired by her shawl without discussing the person that I was working with. That would be wildly unprofessional. And yes, her pattern is a 3-color linen stitch shawl. There's none of this, like this isn't anything of hers. This isn't anything of hers. But I'm still not gonna be like, oh, hey, I worked with a client and I was really liking that stitch pattern, so now I made a cowl and I'm going to publish it. Like, that's just not cool. We don't do that. And then also my hesitation is like this, like linen stitch isn't super groundbreaking. Like, there's plenty of linen stitch cowls out there. Does the world really need another linen stitch cowl? I also don't know that I would want to do it sideways. Like, I might do it like bottom up or top down, and I don't know. We'll see. So I made this out of scraps and it was really, really fun to make. Like, I loved it. I would make many of them. But I don't know that it'll ever be something that turns out to be a published pattern. Just because one of the things I'm working on this year is recognizing my limitations and working within realistic timelines for myself. So in the past, I have worked really hard to kind of push patterns out as fast as I could or as many as I could. And I'm kind of in a different space now. For those of you who don't know, a little under 2 years ago at this point, my husband and I, with my kids, we moved to where we are. And the place where we moved to, it was in that crazy real estate market thing. So we literally had like maybe half an hour to an hour to figure out what we were going to do. Yes, put in an offer. No, don't, because it was that crazy. After we moved in and things calmed down a little bit, we found out that we are technically a farm. Like, we technically bought a farm and didn't even realize that we were doing that, because they said house and property, not buy the farm. And then we got paperwork that said this farm has been transferred to you and name of farmers with our names next to it. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm apparently a farmer. And we found out that like all the trees along the back of the property were apple trees. So like, we have an old orchard that needed tending to. Like, it hadn't been taken care of in years, and so we are working on, like, I don't know that remedial is the right word, but like rescue pruning it. Plus I'm homeschooling my kids, plus we ended up getting animals because like we're on a farm, so why not type situation. Like, we have space and we might as well. So there's a lot going on. Oh, and I started tech editing last year. So basically, with all of the things that I have on my plate, I'm trying to publish things that I really, really love, not just pushing out patterns because I need to have new stuff out or for the sake of publishing. So I'm trying to figure out with myself, is this something that would be put out just for the sake of publishing, like because I can, or is this something that I really want to put out as a pattern? You know, I'm trying to figure out, I guess, what I like about it. Like, did I like the lace? Did I just enjoy the linen stitch? What do I actually want to publish that would be a good making experience for you guys? So that is that. I don't know if you would call that more thoughtful making or what. I'm sure there's a term for it. So let's talk about a project I'm a little bit stuck on and why. There is dog fur in this bag. So I showed you guys last time these pants. These are the Turkish Bridget britches by Lisa Shemery, who is Froganette. And I am at the point of the pattern, obviously, where I'm doing the legs. And the legs should be decreasing. And the only thing that's keeping me from working on this is having to remember the decrease ratios, which kind of sounds dumb because, like, just decrease the leg, like read the pattern, decrease the leg. But for some reason, my brain is stuck on these decrease ratios. So I'm thinking, my kid likes baggy clothes. So if I just knit the legs straight down and then put a cuff at the bottom, ta-da, pants, he'll still wear them and he'll get to wear them before he's too big to wear them. So I think my solution for these for the time being is just going to be that I'm going to knit the legs straight to the appropriate length and just leave it at that, because I would rather have these done. It's January right now. I would rather have these done in time for him to wear them than to wait on the decreases or be stalled out mentally on the decreases. And then it's springtime, then it's summertime, he never wears them, and they're just sitting here. So I think that will be my plan for them. It's not really the end of the world if there's a little bit more of like a balloon leg. Like, he's 7. He doesn't care. He wears sweatpants all the time. Let's see. What else am I working on? Oh, these socks. Okay, so I'm not sure if you've heard. You probably have if you were anywhere close to involved with it. There is a company, was a company called Knit Crate. Knit Crate was a subscription company that I designed a couple of patterns for, and they closed. So the patterns that I designed for them, the rights have now reverted to me. However, their photos are not my right. Like, I don't own their photos, and also I don't have the samples from the patterns because they kept the samples. So I am reknitting a sample of one of my patterns because I want to adjust it a little bit also. I found that when I reread the pattern that I got back, that I wasn't 100% happy with some of the things. Like, for example, stupid needles, on the pattern, ideally, I would like the ribbing to line up with the heel. And it doesn't perfectly line up on some of the sizes. And I didn't catch it, and the tech editor didn't catch it. And they weren't tested because Knit Crate didn't require pattern testing. So as I was reknitting it, I went, oh, I don't like this very much. So, and then also in the front, I've reworked the pattern a little bit so that it flows down into the cables on the front. So it's just a little more aesthetically pleasing, I guess. So I'm reworking these so I can get them republished in a way that I'm happy with, and also test knit. But I'm using this really pretty, this is called Burnt Caramel from Sugar Plum Circus. It's just a DK weight. It's either 75-25 merino and nylon or just all merino. I don't mind knitting socks without nylon in them, just because I don't find really any difference in the wear. I guess it's just how I wear my socks or how I fit my socks. I don't really find that I have a whole lot of difference in wear with superwash or non-superwash. I find that the gauge I knit them at is more important. Future Ruth coming in here. My daughter interrupted. I totally lost the sock train of thought. We're moving on to something else now. Okay, so another project I am working very slowly on is this lovely uneven weaving project that you can see. It's largely uneven because I made the really dumb decision to warp it, which is these. The vertical threads are the warp threads, right? I made the really dumb decision to warp it with a really stretchy superwash wool. Because this is only my second weaving project, and I wasn't really thinking about that. Like, hey, the warp probably needs to have some more structure than this really stretchy superwash. And also, I don't know if you can see, I've got some winding on, like, tension issues over here. So these threads are pulled really, really taut. These ones are a little bit looser. You know, my edges are all wonky. And I'm basically just hoping that, like when you knit or crochet and you can block the project, like wet block it, and the fabric sort of evens out a little bit, I'm hoping that the same holds true for weaving as well, because wool is wool. So, you know, here we are. But the warp, the vertical threads here, the warp is Knit Picks Swish Worsted, which as soon as I say that, anyone who weaves is going to be like, that's dumb, why'd you warp with that? And then the weft is this really pretty brown tweed. This is Sugar Plum Circus. I don't know. It's just like a tweed DK or something. I know the color is called Saddle. So this is going to be like a poncho Ruana type thing for my husband, who has been asking me for a very long time if I will knit or crochet him a poncho, but he likes very like woven type fabric. So basically what he has seen me make that he liked was a knit linen stitch with fingering weight yarn. And I was like, I don't know that I physically can make an entire poncho with fingering weight knit linen stitch on like size 3s, because that's insane. It's just no. I love you, but we're gonna have to figure out another fabric, because that's just, it will never get done. And then he saw me weave my first project and was like, oh, you could make a poncho with that. And I was like, yeah, probably. And then I was setting up this warp, and I was just going to do a scrappy project. Like I was just going to throw some scraps in for the, oh my gosh, the weft. And he saw me setting it up and was like, oh, are you finally making my poncho? And I was like, oh, yes. Yes, I am. Yes. So he chose out the brown tweed. So my current plan is that I'm going to make just a really long piece of fabric, and it's probably going to have to be one of those ponchos where instead of it being like a rectangle over top, you know, the ones where it goes like diamond up to the shoulder, wraps around, and then a second piece goes from here and around. So there's like a point in the front and the point in the back. So we'll see. There's like a loose, vague plan, but I'm also trusting in the fact that a woven fabric, if need be, I could like pull out my sewing machine and like sew and then cut the extra fabric off if it looks terrible. Yeah. So we'll see. I'm trying to get into the mindset of I am creating fabric and then I will make something with the fabric, as opposed to in knitting and crocheting where you are creating the fabric and shaping it at the same time. So I'm reminding myself that the shape doesn't have to be perfect. Just make the fabric and then make your project with the fabric. So we'll see how this goes. This could be interesting. I have made progress on the Lee blanket. I think last time I showed you guys, it was maybe like here. I feel like I'm making pretty good progress on this. This is, again, this was not my choice. This was a friend of mine from college got in contact with me, and her niece or nephew, I'm not sure which, needed to be in the hospital for a bit. So she asked me if I could make a blanket. And of course, right after she asked me to make a blanket, I injured my shoulder in the gym, and I was barely knitting for like 6 weeks. I don't know if I told you guys that, but it turned out that I had pulled my tricep and irritated something in the front. One of the tendons in the front. I had irritated the tendon in the front and pulled the tricep at the same time on my dominant arm. And then kept working out while it was still irritated. So once I got smart enough to like go to a doctor and stop using my arm as much as possible, it healed up pretty quickly. So, yeah, so this pattern is the Lee, L-E-E blanket, and it has reversible cables on it. It's a little bit hard to show on the camera because the fabric is I'm making it, worsted weight on US 9s, which is a 5.5 millimeter. So it's a very drapey fabric. So when I hold it up to the camera, it's kind of see-through, but it's got reversible cables. So you can see the back and the front look the same, which is pretty sweet. I didn't really realize what I was agreeing to because I had not read the pattern. Like, she sent me a picture of it and was like, here, please make this. And I was like, oh yes, I will. And then I read the pattern and realized it was reversible cables all the way up a blanket, which I like it and I'm happy to make it. I probably just would have chosen something faster had I realized, because yeah, it has taken a while to make progress on that, and I can't always focus on that. That might be an excuse, actually, as I think about it, because the next project I'm about to show you is a personal, I really like this type project. So the I can't always focus might be a little bit of an excuse. I think you will agree when you see this project. I finished multiple projects that I didn't really want to do because I had like tube socks and stuff, and I was making fingerless gloves and socks and other socks, and it just felt like it was taking forever. So, excuse me. So once I got all of that bound off, I was like, I am going to treat myself to a new cast on for myself. Look at this. How freaking gorgeous is this? So this is going to be a sweater. This is the, I have to find the name of it. I did not print out the title page because it had a big picture on it and I didn't want to use the ink. So I'll put the name of it, but this is the wool and pine coat. So this is 2 strands of swish worsted held double. So it's like a chunky weight yarn, and these are 10.5s, which is a 6.5 millimeter needle. And I haven't tried it on yet because I'm just past like the armhole divide. But this is literally my first try on, and the needles are constricting this a little bit, but I think it'll be okay. Like there's going to be a big neckband picked up right here, so it seems like in general this will fit. Yeah, I think that'll fit. That's a little, this is also unblocked. This is superwash wool that is unblocked, and it's meant to be like a fitted coat, not an oversized pullover. So I think this will be really good. The fact that I can get like my arms through the, like there's space, right? Yeah. Oh, see, now that the needle's not constricting it, I'm adjusting stitches on the needle a little bit. Yeah, look at that. That's going to be very nice. I like it. So we do this, right? I'm going to do the whole body like this. And then the sleeve is a short row set in sleeve. So instead of knitting a sleeve separately and then sewing it in, you pick up stitches all the way around the armhole opening, and then you work short rows back and forth to make the sleeve fabric come down until you reach like down here. And then you just knit the rest of the sleeve down like you normally would, which is awesome. I just tech edited a pattern. Ooh, let's see if I can get out of this. Let's see if we can get out of this without dropping stitches off the needles. I just tech edited a pattern for someone. It is called the Anne Sweater by Melanie Roundtree. She's Roundtree Stitchery, maybe? And this sweater, you guys, when I tell you, like, it is custom fit. So it's a stockinette sweater, top down, with the same sleeves, which is why, like, what reminded me, and these, like, puff sleeves, like Anne of Green Gables. And she has worksheets in there for bust darts and upper bust adjustments and full bust adjustments and bicep adjustments and waist shaping adjustments. And it's all like, okay, here's a basic pattern. Now here's these worksheets so you can custom fit this sweater exactly to your body. Oh, you don't like a super big puff? Here, let me give you instructions so that you can work like a 25% less puff. So if you don't want a puff sleeve, you can have like a slightly puff sleeve. And it's just, it's wild to me. It's her first adult knitting pattern, and I'm just like, dang, if this is how she's starting out, holy cow. Holy cow. Like, oh, mind blown. I started out with like a pair of mittens, right? Like I published a pair of mittens and was like, I'm a designer 10 years ago. And Melanie has done like 2 kid sweaters and was like, here, let me go full on with like bust adjustments and darts and stuff like that. Wild. Absolutely fantastic. Let's see, what else do I have to show you? Oh. Because I apparently don't have enough blanket projects already started, I started this. You might recognize the motif if you have watched my videos. I did a gold and gray, like a grello blanket with this stitch in it a while ago. But because I was sort of just using leftover yarns, I realized I don't actually know how much yarn is needed per section. So I'm making this again, and I'm weighing the yarn as I go. This is also worsted weight held double, and I'm using a K hook, which is a 6.5 millimeter. So I'm weighing the project as I go, so that way when I size the pattern, I will be able to accurately give yarn yardage estimates. So this will probably be out in the fall. We'll see. Right now, I'm just making this for my daughter because she saw the sparkles. That would be a cute little kid skirt too. Look at that. That would be cute. So I'm just making this for my daughter, and it's very fast. This is 2 days worth of work, and I'm almost 2 sections in. And the reason I'm working on that is because it's something that I have memorized. I have the pattern memorized, so it's not like I don't have to think about it while I'm doing it. So I can do it while I'm like supervising homeschool or whatever. One of my this is the last thing I have to show you, I promise. One of my goal projects for this year is I want to finish my solar kaleidoscope blanket. Now, this is one of my own patterns. This is published. Do you know why? Because when you know how much yarn each little hexagon takes, it's very easy to do the math and multiply it. So I have a pretty good blanket's worth of stuff done. Like this is as wide as my arms, and I'm 5'5", so this is, you know, 65 inches by maybe like 30 at this point. Like it's big enough that I could sit it on my lap and it would be fine. But I have a bucket full of center circles that I have yet to join. So I don't know that I'm gonna do like a join 1 hexagon per day type situation. I might make a strip of them and then just like join the strip. But this is my oldest whip. This is my oldest project, and I really, really love the blanket. Like it just feels very nice on me. So I would like to get it finished so I can use it because I want to use it. Like some projects are a process project like this, right? Where I want to, like, I enjoy the feeling and the texture of it. This is a product project where for me personally, the join as you go gets a little bit tedious, but it's pretty, so I think it's worth it. And also I want to be able to use my blanket. So the centers are, I want to say like 3 to 4 grams of yarn. So it's really, really good for scraps. Some of these are fingering weight held double, like sock yarn scraps. Some of them are DK weight. It's pretty interchangeable. So basically you can make a whole bunch of the little center circles and toss them. So it's really nice for traveling. And then you don't have to join them until later. The only downside is that you must join them later. So, but I think it'll be worth it. I really, really do. I think it'll be worth it. And it just looks so darn cozy. I saw somebody just left me a feedback on Etsy and said she's using it as a temperature blanket for this year. And I'm so excited. I hope, like, no negativity at all, but I hope it actually gets finished because I would love to see that. Temperature blankets are notoriously difficult to finish just because it's such a big and such a long-term project. So, like, look, like there's ends and stuff, but again, it's worth it. So hopefully I will be able to continually show you progress on this. I think I'm going to count up what I have left to join and sort of see how that will work out. And maybe start weaving in some of these ends so that I don't have to weave in all of these ends once I finally get the hexagons joined. So that is where we're at for January. Let me know if you have questions. And yeah, thank you for coming to chat with me. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.